Welcome back, everyone. This video is going to be doing my review of Gotham Season 1, Episode 2, Selina Kyle. This isn't going to be the traditional, okay, now this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. I picked some bullet points because that's the only thing that worries me about this TV series. There's so much that's going on in each episode that I'm hoping, I mean, for me, I don't mind it because I'm vested in it. I care about what goes on in it. I'm not just a casual viewer. I'm a big fan of this. But your casual viewer isn't gonna detract away from it because there's so much going on each one. So I hope that's something that's not going to hurt this series. But I picked some bullet points and I'm going to focus on each one, different uh, topics for this particular video. First one I'm going to touch on for this episode called episode 2, Selina Kyle, is we really start to get to know Selina Kyle as a character. There's a group that's supposedly run by the mayor that's picking up these kids and all the homeless kids, and these kids are just disappearing, but they're cloaked as someone from the mayor, which actually they're not from the mayor at all. And we don't really get a clear view of what the bigger picture of this is where these kids are going and who's the head person doing it. All we see is some minions doing the dirty work, picking the kids up. Well, Selina Kyle survives actually two attacks in this episode. One being the initial one where they're pulling kids off the street. The second one is where later in the episode, the mayor actually tries to do something about this, child trafficking unit, and takes these kids, off to, good homes upstate or wherever. Well, whoever's head of this child trafficking unit actually kidnaps one of the buses full of kids and takes the kids away. And Selina Kyle, being the tough kid that she is, she survives it again with Jim Gordon's Jim Gordon's help. And in the process of that, when she gets to know him, she lets him know that she's got information on who she can help with the case on who killed the Waynes, Bruce Wayne's parents. And so yeah, we find out how tough she really is. And at one point in the episode, that was one thing that I've heard discussed about this series is the gore factor in this series, and that there are some points where it seems a little intense. Well, this episode isn't bad, all except for like about 2 seconds where I said at the second part where Selina Kyle gets kidnapped and she's trying to escape, and they're looking for her in this warehouse, and there's a guy who apparently ran into her and paid the price. He runs back. The minions run into him, and he's got blood streaming down his face from behind his gloves. And all of a sudden, he removes his hands away from his eyes, and his eyes are gone. His eyes, there's just 2 black holes where his eyes were, and it, even though it shows it just for a split second, it's like, it's startling. And so that's like the only gore factor of the whole show for this episode. The rest wasn't too bad. So that's the first bullet point is seeing Selina Kyle and really getting to know her and her character in this series. Next, talking about Bruce Wayne, we see early in the episode he starts hurting himself, and Alfred catches him. He's holding his hand above a flame, and he's like testing himself. And that's one thing that I think we're going to see happen throughout this series, specifically with Alfred. You think about the position that he's in now, whereas he used to just be the butler, work for the Waynes, and I'm sure he was treated well, and I'm sure he did his job well, and just went about his daily work and did whatever he had to do. Well, now Alfred's position in this family is really compromised. It really is. He's not just A, still working for the family, B, he's put into a position where he has to raise Bruce Wayne as his own, per se. So he goes from, being the butler and caretaker to a father figure as well. And that some ways, just the stress level of that can become very upsetting for someone like Alfred. It's like I'm sure sometimes he's like, I didn't ask for this. I don't want this part of the job, but he's being loyal to, his former boss, who is now deceased, the Waynes, and, doing the best he can with Alfred. Well, later in the episode, we see him reach out to Jim Gordon, as civilly as possible. He's not going to come up to him and be like, yo, I can't do this. No, Alfred has a very civilized way about him and invites him over for tea, and in order to, talk to Bruce and get to know him. And it's another, how do I say it? Alfred's character is really growing early in this series because he's reaching out for help. He's reaching out to Jim. He sees that, Jim has dedicated his job to solving this case and, forming a relationship with Bruce. And so, and Alfred seeing that is like, hey, well, maybe he can help me out too in this, in this whole task, and, build a relationship with me too. And, everybody just working together for the common good. We see that developing in this episode. Next, we see a lot of friction between Falcone, the mob boss, and Fish Mooney. And there's conflicting stories of what Fish Mooney wants to do, as far as her wanting to take over, and Falcone confronts her on it, like, oh, well, this is what I heard that you want to do to me, and you think I'm soft, and you think I can't handle this job anymore, and you want to take over. And of course, Fish Mooney is not going to flat out say, well, duh, she's going to, play it smart. She's going to, rise up slowly and then catch him when he's, unsuspecting. She's not going to try anything in her own restaurant. She's not that dumb, surrounded by his men. So we see that friction growing too. And obviously, she's so frustrated by the confrontation in her own restaurant that when he leaves, and as he's leaving, one of her workers, the bartender, possibly a lover, we find out, of Fish Movie, is, getting the snot kicked out of him as they're leaving. And all she can do is sit and watch. There's nothing she can do, out of respect. And, she doesn't want to, reveal any true feelings that she has for any of her workers or Falcone himself. So we see that friction growing in this series. Next, we see the relationship between Jim Gordon and Bullock at a strain, because, Bullock is trying to convince Jim, saying, hey, you got to be like me, and you got to, take things as they come and not do everything by the book. And what's even more interesting is when Bullock and Gordon are sitting in the office talking to their boss. I can't think of her name. the chief of police, the head of their precinct, the woman. She even says to Bullock, "Oh, I thought he was, I thought he was in the program or something, to something to that effect, saying, I thought he was okay." And, and they're all talking, and Jim's really conflicted with, being, it's like you got, the angel on one shoulder and the devil on another. He wants to do things by the book. He wants to do things the right way, the proper way, and he keeps getting pulled in that severe gray direction to where you're only supposed to care about certain things, watch out for you and you only, and do things Harvey's way. And so we see that relationship really straining too as they're continuing to work on this case together. Especially when it comes to confronting Fish Mooney partway through the episode too. Last but not least, Penguin. We see Penguin in the first episode, the pilot. We see Penguin was exiled, supposedly killed by Jim Gordon, but obviously we know he wasn't. But he set it up to look like that. Held him over the water, fired the pistol past him, and threw him in the water. And Harvey Bullock's standing behind him, I'm guessing about between 20 to 30 yards, didn't see exactly what happened. Well, we know Penguin, now being exiled, is leaving Gotham. We see him walk past a sign that says Gotham 9 miles. So he's almost 10 miles out of town, hitchhiking, limping severely from being beaten by Fish Mooney in the last episode. Gets picked up by some preppy looking guys, probably guys, partying on a weekend from, probably leaving college or going back to college or whatever. They're out on the road. They got road beers, and they pick up Penguin, and they're messing with him, and they don't let him in right away, and they're teasing him. Well, finally, Penguin's had enough. Takes the beer bottle that was offered to him, cracks one over the head, slashes the other, and it was, as we see through the episode, takes their vehicle, way out of town, comes across a farm with a trailer that says for rent. Well, this is some, hick out in the middle of nowhere, pretty unsuspecting of everything. But we know that Penguin's got bodies in his back seat, and he's obviously trying to cover it up. And he's got some money on him, probably got from the guys themselves. Probably took their clothes to get out of his nasty smelling clothes. And gives the guy the money right away, saying, "Hey, yeah, I'll take it. Where's the key?" He's really anxious. He wants to just get rid of the bodies, which is, at first it almost seems like he's got two dead bodies, but we find out later that he doesn't. One of them is actually still alive. And once inside, he's got this collage of, like, almost like a plan he's got all written out of, to sum it up, basically, how he's going to get back to Gotham, how he's going to take it over and everything. Well, unsuccessfully, we see he's already struggling a lot. He takes one of the guys that was, the one that he didn't kill. He's got him all taped up, and he's got him as a hostage. Calls the kid's mom, and tells him, saying, "Hey, if you don't give me $10,000, I'm going to kill him." Well, the mom doesn't believe Penguin for a second. And, they argue a little on the telephone, and then she hangs up on him. And he's like, well, that didn't go well at all. So now he's got to come up with plan B. So you're assuming he's going to kill the second kid as well. And, so he's holed up in this trailer outside of town on a farm, and we'll see where this goes in future episodes. But obviously, he's got to figure out a way to clean up, B, how to get back to Gotham, and C, you know, a slow elevating plan to take it over. And we're gonna see this all in the episodes to come. So, and we're also going to see Selina Kyle's relationship with Jim grow, and those characters all grow. We're going to see the friction between the Falcone family and Fish Mooney, and eventually we're going to see the other mob family that's in this series, the Maroney family, I believe that's what they were called. But so yeah, there's a lot going on. It shouldn't be too hard to follow if you know who all the characters are. I think the episode was great. I think one of the most interesting things in this series so far is watching Jim Gordon's character change from this tight soldier-like cop to getting bent this way, getting bent that way, watching his character change. And then of course the rise of Penguin. I think you got these two major crime families going at each other with Fish Mooney in the middle, and down here you got Penguin creeping up, gonna take them all out at some point. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how this series goes. That's my review for this one. Let me know in the comments below what you think of it, how well you think it's going to do, and that's about it for this one. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.